Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another analysis as part of my VGC 2015 individual Pokemon analysis series, where I basically cover one Pokemon in the VGC 2015 format and tell you everything you need to know about that Pokemon, including popular movesets, how to use it, and how to beat it. If you haven't seen the previous ones on Cresselia, Bisharp, and Sylveon, you definitely want to check those out, but I hope that these videos are helpful. I do apologize that I haven't been able to release one in a while because I've been super busy the last 2 weeks, but I'm hoping to get more out soon. Please let me know in the comments below which ones you'd rather see come out sooner so I can work on those. Today we'll be talking about Thundurus, which is definitely one of the most highly requested ones, so without further ado, let's just jump right into it. So first, a look at its base stats. It's got 79 HP, 115 attack, 70 defense, 125 special attack, 80 speed, and 80 special defense, and 111 speed for a total of 580, which is really solid. Its offenses look really impressive. Now, unfortunately, with 115 attack, it's not really going to do much because you're not going to use attack most of the time. Physical Thundurus was actually a thing back last generation when Defiant was allowed on Thundurus, but Defiant's not allowed on Thundurus in VGC this year because of the Pentagon roll. So you're probably going to want to use the special kind of variant. So that 115 kind of goes to a waste, which is definitely unfortunate. But 125 special attack is really good for naturally strong Pokemon, and 111 speed also is really solid because it gives you the jump on other 110 base speed and lower Pokemon like Gengar, Terrakion, etc. Its overall offense with 79 HP, 70 defense, and 80 special defense is not the best, but you'll see later on how you can really invest EVs to make it really good and survive the most common attacks. So why use Thundurus? First of all, access to Prankster, one of the best abilities in VGC and in the game in general, is huge. With Prankster, you get to use priority attacks like Thunder Wave, Taunt, and Swagger, which really can turn the battle into your favor. It has really decent bulk and obviously the high special attack and speed as we saw earlier. It is one of the best electric type Pokemon in the format. I personally like it more than most of the other electric types. Zapdos was really popular in VGC 2014, and Thundurus kind of fits the Zapdos role in terms of a bulky electric type, but just priority Thunder Wave is really good, as is priority Taunt. Thundurus just functions really well, so it's very easy to fit into most teams, just because of its natural, or not natural bulk, but when you include a bulky build, you can really just throw it onto a team and you'll find that it will function very well. The bulky variants are really difficult to KO, especially with Citrus Berry. As you'll see later on, there's almost no way you can one-hit KO it unless you're overextending with obscure Pokemon, so most of the common Pokemon in the format can't effectively KO it in one attack. And earlier, as we saw with the speed, because of 111, you can actually outspeed base 10 Pokemon and other fast Pokemon like Latios, Gengar, Terrakion, Garchomp, Landorus, and Salamence should you choose to run max speed. And just a fun fact, Thundurus really dominated in each of the years it was allowed in VGC in previous years. 2011 Worlds Finals, it was on Ray Rizzo's team, 2012 on Wolfie Glick's team, and 2013 on Ryosuke Kosuge's team. So it has made it to the finals of Masters Worlds every year, and that should not be a surprise. Thundurus is really good. So some common Thundurus info you may want to know. It really tends to be built one of two ways, which is obviously defensively or offensively, and I guess that's kind of obvious, but I think for players who are new to VGC, this may come as a surprise because, maybe the Thunduruses you're used to are really offensive. But the defensive build is actually probably more common nowadays. You run either Calm or Bold, but basically that allows you to survive most of the most common attacks while spreading Thunder Waves. This guide actually isn't on Thundurus T, it's only on Thundurus Incarnate because T is actually not too common, but if you do see a Thundurus T, you can most of the time assume that it's more offensive, like a Choice Scarf or Specs build. My brother actually used Choice Scarf at his most recent Premier Challenge and did pretty well with it, so that's definitely viable. The bulky builds have really dominated the last 2 seasons though when Thundurus was allowed in both VGC 2012 and 2013. I used the bulky Thundurus both of those years and it was really good. And those are some common items that you see on Thundurus. Citrus Berry is by far the most common one, but the others are all equally viable. Rocky Helmet is super annoying to deal with, but you should definitely expect Citrus Berry most of the time. And like I said, the bulky builds are really difficult to KO, especially in one hit, so you have to watch out for that because most of the time they'll probably be able to take at least 2 to 3 attacks. Sometimes you even see Thundurus on rain teams because it can set up Prankster, with Prankster it can set up Rain Dance, which makes it definitely really annoying to deal with, and then it can use Thunder, which is an even more powerful electric type attack. As for moves you'll see, you should almost always expect to see Thunderbolt, Thunderwave, and Taunt on the bulkier builds, but these are the top 10 moves that you see, so HP Ice and Protect and Swagger obviously all up in the top as well. Rain Dance, Grass Knot, Volt Switch, and Focus Blast slightly more obscure, but also on Thundurus is for sure. I didn't include a couple like Substitute and Sludge Bomb, which kind of makes sense in the given format, but those are the moves you should really expect, and most Thunduruses really carry a moveset of the first 6 moves, which are Thunderbolt, T-Wave, Taunt, HP Ice, Protect, and Swagger, so it's a mix of those. Bulkier Thunduruses tend to not have Protect because they opt for HP Ice or Swagger over it, but on more offensive ones you can probably expect to see Protect. So here is my sample set of a bulky one. So Citrus Berry level 50, T-Wave, T-Bolt, HP Ice, Taunt, and the EV spread I'll go into later, but it's a pretty complicated one as you see as EVs in all its stats other than attack, and that basically allows it to do a lot of things, excuse me. This next one is a more offensive set, and I don't really have a creative EV spread for this, mainly because offensive ones don't need it as much. With that max speed, you're going to be able to outspeed, like I said, things like Thundurus, not Thundurus, Latios, Terrakion, Gengar, etc. So the idea behind this is just to get as much damage off as possible. Of course, you don't have to run the exact set. You could easily change EV spreads, even add, maybe Thunder Wave over Grass Knot. I actually like having Grass Knot because it gives the matchup against Mega Swampert, which I see sometimes a bit better. It is a techie move, so you should be dependent on your team. You can freely run Thunder Wave or maybe even substitute over it, but that way you just get more type coverage. So this one has a Life Orb obviously, and the EV spread's not very complicated, but you're just hitting as hard as possible and outspeeding the more common fast Pokemon in the format. So here's some damage calculations that I've got written out that apply to the more defensive spread I showed you earlier on. So you have max HP obviously to maximize your bulk between defense and special defense. The 116 defense basically allows you to survive max attack Stone Edge from normal Landorus T without choice bands, so you see there it hangs on. The maximum roll it can get is 98.9%, which is obviously really nice. And with 68 special defense EVs and Calm Nature, you can survive modest Life Orb Draco Meteor from Hydreigon. Now I know that this is not choice specs, but you do have to invest a considerable more amount if you want to survive the choice specs one. So as I'll go into later, feel free to modify the spread based off what you want to do. Personally, I don't even see specs Hydreigon out that much anymore, just because I think Hydreigon is a bit weaker this year than maybe let's say last year because more things outspeed it, so it's not as common to see the spec set. As you may or may not know, I have been running Choice Scarf forever because it outspeeds things like Kangaskhan and Terrakion, and I do like that a lot more. But yeah, if you're afraid of specs modest Draco Meteor, you can definitely invest more in special defense. And here are 2 other reference attacks that you may want to see. With that bulk, Thundurus can take a Rock Slide from Jolly Terrakion with ease, or not with ease, but it hangs on with at least 7% HP. And of course with the Citrus Berry, it's really nice because you always heal back. And with Specs Sylveon, with Hyper Voice, spread damage, the most it does is 70%. So obviously a lot, but the point of showing you guys these calculations is to show that even the most common / powerful attacks can't really one-hit KO Thundurus. And with Citrus Berry, you can actually take any attack from Kangaskhan like Ice Punch or Double Edge, which is also really nice. That is why I like Citrus Berry a lot on Thundurus, because it ensures you can survive for at least one more turn. So for the EV spread discussion, I mentioned earlier that you might see Bold or Calm Nature on Thundurus. While the metagame now currently I think is more physically oriented, you can still survive most of the popular attacks while using a Calm Nature, as that previous spread demonstrated. Offensive variants will probably want to run max speed, like I mentioned earlier as well. It doesn't really make much sense to me to be an offensive variant without max speed, because then you're still getting outsped by Pokemon like Latios, Gengar, Terrakion, etc. You can definitely feel free to play around with my EV spread. This is just a personal one. It's definitely not perfected, but it's a one I've been using just for the beginning of the season. I'm sure I'll fix it up and finesse it throughout the year, but it's a good base to start off with, I think. But you might want more speed EVs actually to outspeed neutral Landorus T, or because the EV spread I have currently right now allows you to outspeed Breloom and Politoed and Hitmontop and Bisharp. Those were all more common in VGC 2013, but not as prevalent this year. So, now with the new edition of Pokemon, I think being able to outspeed neutral Landorus T might be pretty helpful, but you see, you need actually 100 speed EVs to accomplish that, which is a whole lot. And by investing that much in speed, you're already giving a bulk, allowing your opponent to have a better chance of picking up KOs on it. So that's why I don't really mind being slightly slower than Landorus T, and most of the teams I build with Thundurus have proper support to beat Landorus T anyway. So what are some good partners for Thundurus? Well, it's also one of those Pokemon that just fit well onto any team. It's why it's in the top 12 in the battle spot last season, just because you can just speed control so well with Thunder Wave, and you can do, substantial damage given how high the base special attack is. But it's really popular with those mid-tier speed Pokemon like Sylveon, Bisharp, and Heatran that really appreciate getting a Thunder Wave off against an opponent, because after Thunder Wave, those Pokemon can basically outspeed most things in the format. Has really great synergy with Earthquake users. We've seen Landers, T, and Garchomp in previous years, which makes a lot of sense because you can freely just Earthquake while Thundurus is out. The other popular partners from Season 7 of Battle Spot were Mega Kangaskhan, Aegislash, Charizard Y, Talonflame, Cresselia, and Suicune. In general, I think Thundurus is also really good with Megas that might want a bit more speed control, which is why I think Kangaskhan and Charizard work so well, because they're not so fast, but after a paralysis, they can outspeed almost anything. So those are really good, and I think it's nice to have Thundurus complement your Mega Evolution. So how are some ways to beat it? Well, first I think KOing it before it spreads too many Thunder Waves is essential. You really don't want it to paralyze more than half your team. Even getting 2 Thunder Waves off is really scary to go up against, so be careful about that. Electric type Pokemon, of course, now are not affected by Thunder Waves, so you can bring in Pokemon like Rotom-Wash and Zapdos to take in those Thunder Waves, and that's going to burn your opponent's turns. So having electric type Pokemon definitely help out in the Thundurus matchup, because Thundurus can't really do much damage to them back, even with Thunderbolts. Ice type and rock type attacks are always fantastic. Ice Beam, Ice Punch, Rock Slide, just to name a few. So Pokemon with those attacks are really good. For example, Tyranitar, it is one of the prime examples. Mamoswine is also really good. It was actually on the 2013 World Champion Arasho Madi's team, and if you watch the 2013 World Championship Finals, Mamoswine basically wrecked Thundurus because it just came in and KO'd it. So Mamoswine's really good, especially with the Choice Scarf variant, and Thundurus can't really touch it other than maybe Swagger it, which is already risky enough. You can effectively one-hit KO it with Icicle Spear, so or Icicle Crash. So Mamoswine's really good. Maybe if not the best counter to Thundurus is out there. I really like Lumberry users. I personally use Terrakion because you bait the Thunder Wave into you, so you can get a super effective attack off, and then your partner can also KO it. So basically you double target it, your opponent thinks he or she is going to get a paralysis off that turn, but instead, because you have the Lumberry, he's not going to. Finally, I think predicting taunts and Thunder Waves is essential. The whole point of Thundurus is it's really annoying, and it kind of spreads Thunder Waves / status conditions like Swagger. So if you can protect the right Pokemon and call which Pokemon Thundurus is going to target, and use your other Pokemon to target down to Thundurus, you're going to do damage while it does absolutely nothing. And basically, you want to get Thundurus off the field before it spreads too much damage or gets too many Thunder Waves off. So if you can predict taunts and Thunder Waves, effectively wasting its turns, it's really good. A prime example of this is back in VGC 2013 when Thundurus would often taunt Cresselia. So, for example, my brother, who is in the junior division and won the World Championships in 2013, both in top 4 and in the finals, his opponent would taunt his Cresselia from the first turn, expecting Trick Room, since it was a Trick Room team, and Brendan instead would just Ice Beam the Thundurus because he knew taunt was coming almost 100% of the time against the Thundurus. That way he would do a lot of damage right from the beginning, and Thundurus, just wasted a turn. So the next turn he could effectively KO it before it really did anything else, and then of course taunt wears off eventually. So, if you're using a Cresselia with the Trick Room, you'll probably want to actually Ice Beam Thundurus from the start, predicting the taunt, so that way you kind of effectively waste its turns, which is, I think, really important. So in conclusion, Thundurus is definitely one of the most common Pokemon currently in VGC 15, and you shouldn't expect this to die down anytime soon. Like I mentioned earlier, it's made it to the finals of the World Championships the last 3 years it was allowed, so, definitely expect it. I think one key thing to realize about Thundurus is that it doesn't really actually resist many types and attacks, so you can KO it as soon as possible, because just by targeting it with neutral attacks, you can slowly whittle it down, and you'll probably want to take care of it in 1 or 2 turns. So Thunder Wave and Swagger can shut down your team entirely if not dealt with quickly enough. And I read a Worlds 2013 because if you've watched my Worlds 2013 set against Ryosuke Kosuge, you'll know that I made a really bad misplay throughout the course of the set by not KOing Thundurus quicker enough, and as a result I let him roll the dice by, allowing him to spread Thunder Wave and Swagger, and ultimately that was my downfall. Thundurus really allows the opponent to get back into the game, so you don't want to leave the game to chance. Just get rid of it before it can do anything so you don't have to deal with paralysis or confusion hits. Thundurus is definitely one of the best taunt users in the game due to Prankster, so if you ever need a taunt user to deal with those kind of cheese teams like Dark Void, etc., definitely consider Thundurus. The offensive builds will be more frailer, allowing you to KO it quicker, while the bulkier builds can't do much damage, so use both of these to your advantage, scout out what kind of Thundurus build your opponent's using, and take advantage of that. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I've got on Thundurus. I'm sure we'll see it develop as the metagame also continues to develop, but in previous years, namely 2011, Thundurus was all offensive until Ray Rizzo kind of popularized the bulky set with his Bull Charty set, and then since then, it's really more bulky Thunduruses we've seen at all the high-level tournaments, and it's pretty rare to see an offensive Thundurus, especially now that Electric Gem's not even in the format. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this guide. I hope it was helpful. Please leave a like if it was. Share with your friends. Let me know in the comments below what Pokemon you want to see future analyses on, and yeah, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Alright, peace guys.